We all know and love the wonderful Niki Bilton. All of our students said yesterday that she was our favourite lecturer over everybody else. She just is purely simply an inspiration. So thanks, Niki, once again.
Thank you, dear. Okay, so we're going to look at the reality of the heart zang. So, how many of you are predominantly 5-element practitioners in here? Okay, and how many of you predominantly practice a different lineage? A couple of you, okay. So, those of you that may be not familiar with 5-element language, even though mainly we're talking the language from the classics, if I say anything, put the microphone on, thank you, Jen. If I say anything that you don't understand, because it's too 5-element language, please stop me and ask me rather than what on earth is that? Okay, so the difficulty is, most of you who train in 5-element acupuncture, you look at this, and this is fundamentally the map of the Shen and Ko cycles. So here we have the liver and gallbladder, and then here there is this rent asunder line with the heart and small intestine here, and the triple energizer, triple heater, triple burner, whatever. In Canada we have to use World Health Organization nomenclature, which is why I call it the triple energizer. And then the 2 earth officials and the 2 metal officials and water officials. And that somehow pervades your understanding erroneously of the 5 elements. This map only speaks to the Shen and Ko cycles, and the officials organized according to the Shen and Ko cycles, the homeostatic checks and balances of the body. And for any of you doing 5-element acupuncture or Japanese acupuncture, this map is useful because of looking at transfers, which are really a very simply explained way of getting you to do a sophisticated balancing of the Shen and Ko cycles, or if we go further than that, the 4-needle technique. It's not really that you can truck lorry loads of qi from something to something else, because qi doesn't actually exist. Okay? It has substance, but it is released by virtue of the interaction of the essences, Jing, and the Shen spirits, or physiologically, standing in lieu of Shen, you can have primordial fire, the fire from Mingmen. So we have fluid in our body which contains essences, which is what is trucking around, not lorry loads of qi. And then acted upon by the spirits, the qi is released, i.e. you have a physiological metabolic process of the body, mind, spirit. You know, as Westerners, we tend to think of, here we have this kind of qi, and we call it gu qi, and here we have this kind of qi. Or here you have channel qi, lung qi, but lung qi becomes large intestine qi. No, it doesn't. It's because it's only released as is needed. But transfers and 4-needle technique, basically, it's a very simple way to get you to balance the homeostatic regulation of the functions of the 4 officials. And it also has a relevance when you're looking at helping the person conform to the seasonal norms, because the danger seasons are to do with the co-cycle for the different officials and the different elements. This, however, is not the proper map of the 5 elements. So the reality in Chinese medicine, you have to get used to putting on different pairs of glasses. This pair of glasses is to do with the 12 officials, which isn't exactly anything to do with the 5 elements. This pair of glasses is to do with the 5 elements, which isn't exactly anything to do with the Shen and co-cycles. So by now, hopefully, I've done what all proper educators of acupuncture are instructed to do, according to the classics, which is totally confuse you, then terrify you. I'll try and do that as kindly as possible, and then throw you up, take you up to a very high cliff, invite you to jump off, and if not, push you off. It's this thing, Chinese medicine moves all the time. There's no such thing as yin and yang. It's a movement of life. So in this context, something is really yin. And in another context, it's really yang, and vice versa. So the map of the 5 elements, here, the first element, we have water in the north. And then we have fire in the south, created by heaven 1, created by earth 2. Then we have wood in the east, metal in the west, and earth here in the center. This is how you want to think about the 5 elements. And within the 5 elements, we have yin-yang aspects. And that can be linked with the yin-yang channels of the elements. So there's no rent asunder, because basically the fire element contains 4 channels, or rather 3 channels, with the heart having 2 channels. So this is why in the classics, now we're going on to a conversation about the officials, right? And if we want to look at the 12 officials, I just need to confuse you a little bit more in order to get you to let go what you know, which is the most important thing for you to do on a daily basis in your acupuncture practice. Have beginner's mind, and then allow things to come to you courtesy of the spirits of your patient and your own spirits interfacing between heaven and earth. So heaven and earth will communicate with you. If we're talking about the 12 officials, we need to look at them in the hierarchy that is explained in the Neijing: heart, lung, liver, gallbladder, zhong. In the middle, spleen and stomach coming together. This is why there are 12 officials in 11 positions. Large intestine, small intestine, kidney, triple energizer, bladder. This is the officials at the level of 12. So you will notice there is no official called the pericardium. And as Claude Lara wrote in one of the books produced by him and Elizabeth, hooray for the death of the pericardium. The pericardium is the correct name for one of the channels. It is not the correct name for the official. Because now, rather than looking at it arranged in the 12, we all have the 12 officials, they all have to function in health exactly the same in all of us. Now we're going to organise this in the manifestation of life. And this is the numbers 5 and 6. Anything that has 5 talks about life manifesting, taking shape, becoming tangible in the median void between heaven and earth, and being able to communicate amongst each other. 6 is kind of like the organisation and management of life of the 5. So this is why some things can only be 5 and other things are 6. So we have 5 zang and 6 fu. This is what is predominantly found in the classics. The zang are the heart, the liver, the spleen, the kidneys, and the lung. So if you ever see 6 zang, which you will, it's not including the pericardium, because there are 2 kidneys. The lung is one official with 2 lobes, whereas there are 2 kidney officials. So really we could say 6 zang, including the 2 kidneys, and then we can only say 5 fu, because now of course the triple energizer of the fu of kidney yang is included in that. So now are you really confused? Good. Okay, so 5 zangs. Why is there no such thing as the pericardium? And why, when we look at the officials, do we have this thing called zhong now? So, here we are. The heart zang includes Shin, Shin Bao Luo, and Tanzhong. So when we are talking about the fire element, the yin officials of the fire element, we need to look at this. Shin means heart-mind. That's the correct translation. It's normally just translated as heart, but it does actually mean heart-mind. Shin Bao Luo. Bao is wrapping, enveloping. So this basically means, if you just watch me a minute, when I draw this, inside here is Shin, but this is Shin Bao Luo. Luo means connecting, little filaments of connection. So Luo is the same word as the Luo channels, containing blood, okay? So heart wrapping, connecting, you could simplify it as. And the reality is, when we talk about now, the 12 officials, the heart, then lung, liver, gallbladder, and then Tanzhong. When we're talking about the 12 officials, this is the heart official. What is Tanzhong? Impossible really to translate. It means Ren 17. It means the upper sea of Qi. It means the spirits circulating in the blood through the Mai, the network of vessels, which in the classics you sometimes see written as the Mo. So when you read the lung holds the dawn audience for the 10,000 mo, it actually means the mai. So don't worry, these mean pretty much the same thing. So this is the heart, and then Tanzhong, this is the first official when we're talking about the 12 officials, and this is the fifth official when we're talking about the 12 officials. But when we are talking about the fire element, the yin aspect, you must include an awareness of these three. So, this could be called the heart, and this could be called the heart protector. Sometimes you see people, when you're talking about Junju, which is another way of talking about this, basically, this is where you could translate it as heart governor or heart master. I think heart master is a funny translation, really. You know, more five-element translation would be heart protector. And this would be what we often talk about under the auspice of the pericardium as the circulation sex official. So in Leamington, there used to be conversations clearly about the heart protector, and then conversations clearly about the circulation sex official. And they got called the pericardium, but that isn't in the classics. Because in terms of the officials, the heart and the heart protector is the heart official, and Tanzhong, the circulation sex official, is a different official. So, I'm trying to give you a sense of if we're talking about the officials and functions of the officials, there is a separation, but then for the five-element acupuncturists in the room who want to know how to treat the fire CF or someone with fire within, how are you going to do that? Because it's not as clear-cut. It's not as the Shen and co-cycle diagram would make you think. And this explains fundamentally why sometimes the person definitely is a fire CF, you're valiantly treating fire, and it's not working. And it may not work in terms of some of the physical pathologies, neither, more importantly in some ways, will it work in terms of assisting the person to manifest with greater ease the width of their CF fire. That's, for those of you that are not five-element practitioners, I use the five-element language of CF, but basically I'm not using it in the context of pathology. Look at Ling Shu chapter 64, where it talks about the 5 kinds of people. And this is where we see the CF and withins is our way of understanding the person's authentic nature, their Xing, which is given to you courtesy of the benevolence of Tao. And living out your authentic nature, you don't have to change yourself, cultivate yourself, develop yourself. You just have to accept it and live it out. And then that is your Ming, your destiny. So, let's have a look at it in terms of what does this really mean? So, if we're first going to look at it in terms of the 2 officials. The heart is Lord and sovereign. The radiance of the spirits stems from it. This is the title and charge of the heart official. Whereas Tanzhong is resident and envoy, joy and elation stem from it. So, let's look at the heart. The heart is Lord and sovereign. So, The heart as Lord is Shin. This is the heart who, now we're going to switch to a different chapter from the classics. We have the appearance of heaven within me is virtue, earth within me is the breaths. Then we have life and the essences, and now we introduce the hun and the po. By now we've gone through 7 lines. And the 8th line says, when something takes charge of the beings, we speak of the heart. This is wonderfully explained in Claude and Elizabeth's book, Rooted in Spirit, which is the most important book to read in terms of the magic of this medicine, irrespective of what tradition or lineage or style of practice you have.
What book did you say?
Rooted in Spirit by Claude and Elizabeth. It will be on the Monkey Press page. As is the book on the heart in Ling Shu chapter 8, and the Heart Master book, also on Monkey Press. They don't pay me to say this, it's just the best things ever written in terms of trying to put into the English language for Westerners the real magic and mystery of the classics is the translations by Claude Lara and Elizabeth Rocher de la Vallée, because they absolutely get the essence of Chinese medicine. So, the heart as Lord, Shin, this is the heart taking charge of the beings, because before that we have heaven and earth, virtue, we have essences, and we have Shen Hun Po, the heavenly trinity. This is before, during, and after life. So if we're going to talk about your incarnation, before we have the appearance of the earthly spirits, the yi and the zhe, we need someone to take charge. We need the emperor of incarnation. And this is called the heart as Lord, who has an innate, inborn authority. The royal family, right? It's like it is innately their nature to, in inverted commas, rule the kingdom, but in fact, of course, they don't rule it, which is exactly the same in the Chinese classics. The heart does nothing. The heart is empty, forever ready to be filled by the movement of the spirits. The heart is a void. In here is the void inside us, which is the same as the median void between heaven and earth, which is the same as the primordial void before the emergence of Tao, that which has regulation. So that big void, and then the void around us, and the void in the heart is exactly the same thing. An emptiness, a quietude that comes from Tao. And this is the Chinese art of the heart, that you cultivate Wu Wei, doing that has no efforting in the doing, but is being in doing, or doing through being. Quietude. This is Shin, this is Lord. It is actually really, so Jun, would be the Lord, and Zhu would be the sovereign. But really we can talk about Shin Balwo, depending which classics, which chapters, you're going to see all these different terms used. They don't mean quite the same, but kind of. we're more used to this. Shimbal Wo, the heart protector, the heart wrapping, connecting. This is the sovereign. So, think for a minute about heart pathophysiology. And those of you that have studied differentiation according to zhong are going to have a list of different symptoms that you associate with the heart official. Well, the good news, bad news is this is the heart and a half of the pericardium. So sometimes you're whopping away at points on the pericardium and the person is still having wonderful, glorious palpitations that they would rather you got rid of quicker than you are effectively doing. Because, oops, that might not quite work. I'm not saying you rush off and do every point on the heart channel. Hang on to that. After the break, we're going to look at points and context and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Then we have here, so this is the heart as Lord, the heart as sovereign. So basically, the minute I draw the heart, here is the void, and then here, we can add this. So this would be Shinbal Wo, protecting, enveloping the heart, and starting, these little lines are the origin of the Mai, the network of the vessels. So this inner aspect of what we previously called pericardium is the origin of the Mai. But it is Tan zhong, the circulation sex official. That you can't translate Tan zhong as that, but that's what it used to be called in Leamington very often. It's the chest chi, sea of chi, but really they put the word chi in there, but really it's blood. Tan zhong is responsible for being the resident. So this means being in the palace of the heart, not close to the heart. The only person who stays with the heart all the time is the lung official. The yang, zang, liver, heart are always seen as male. The yin, zang, spleen, lung, kidneys are seen as female. The lung is the heart's concubine, not his wife, his slave, his concubine, his mistress, who hangs out with him all of the time, apart from when she turns around and issues the edicts that have been drawn up by the gallbladder, and makes all the decisions for all of the officials. The lung never speaks, just hands out a written piece of paper with symbols on it at dawn, telling all the officials what they have to do during the day. So don't imagine that resident means next to the heart, but in the palace of, because the whole point of Tan zhong is resident and envoy. So it is Tan zhong that is the million messengers who rush round the body doing what? Engendering joy and elation throughout the kingdom. How? By circulating the blood through the Mai. And what lives in the blood? The spirits. So we have the void of the heart that has the inborn authority that creates quietude in the kingdom. This comes with its own protection. The heart protector, Shin Bao Wo. So you can't have the heart without the heart protector. It's not physically possible. And then it is Shin Bao Wo who carries out ruling the kingdom on behalf of the heart. But the actual carrying out of the ruling of the kingdom happens courtesy of Tanjong, spreading the spirits through the blood round the network of animation. Because the idea is that everything that comes out of your mouth, every movement you make, this is governed by the spirits. This is allowing the Tao to walk you rather than you choosing to do whatever you want to. You have to understand that in Chinese medicine, human beings are special. And we always like that, right? When we're told we're special as human beings. Oops. Not in this context. We are special because we are the only ones who do not follow down instinctively. A parrot acts like a parrot, speaks like a parrot, behaves like a parrot, and doesn't try and become an elephant. We, on the other hand, the invitation to humans is to return to the Taoist consciousness, which means we have complete permission from Tao to screw up again and again and again until we get with the plot and allow the water to swim us as it swims the fish, to allow the Tao, the watercourse way, to walk us. And we are given the greatest balance out of the 5 substances between spirits and essences to enable us to hopefully return to Tao in consciousness. So it is the spirit circulating through the blood that keep trying to remind us this is the way. No effort needed. No accrual of knowledge. Hallelujah. Right? Just ease of being. This is why Tanjong as resident and envoy engenders the movement of both joy, which is your internal response to your relationship with heaven and earth. It's that inner light so that you can trust Tao and trust heaven and earth, trust the sun is always there, trust the wonder of life and the rituals and ceremonies of life. But then, most importantly, spread it throughout the kingdom. This is called elation. By communicating with others, by spreading the word of the radiance of Tao, it engenders elation in the kingdom. Because we want your toes to be elated. When you walk, fire walk, it's like little Rice Krispie crackles under their feet. They bounce, right? It's like the spreading upwards, the movement of summer. this warm, encouraging light, radiance, Shen Ming, the radiance of the spirits that is spread throughout you, your kingdom, the whole kingdom within you, and then others. So this is Tan Zhong, the circulation official, and sex not as in sexual secretions, as in blood flow to the sexual organs. This is all different reality. This is predominantly liver reality or kidney reality. But sex in the sense of relationship with others, the ability to create intimacy, not necessarily sexual. It's just trying to convey that relationship with others that engenders elation, the external expression of joy. Right? So, in terms of the 5 zang with the heart contains Xin Xin Balwo Tan Zhong when we talk of the 5 zang. And when we talk about the yin aspects of fire, when we talk about the 12 officials in the 11 positions, the heart and the heart protector, the heart and Xin Balwo is the heart official coming first in the hierarchy. Tan Zhong is the 5th official. So, now we have a problem with the channels, because you have the heart channel with 9 points and the pericardium channel with 9 points, and then your associated points, front mood points, back shu points, etc. So who gets what? Well, this depends on where you were in southern or northern China, and or Taiwan or Japan or Korea at different ages throughout the history of acupuncture. Because some traditions said, oh, we will put the heart clearly, the heart channel clearly with Xin, so we will never treat it. So there, all 3 of these were treated through the pericardium predominantly. Then you had other lineages that basically treated everything through the heart channel and didn't really use many points on the pericardium channel. And then the majority of lineages used both for all 3. So there are points on the pericardium channel that more speak to the heart, Xin Xin Balwo. There are points on the heart channel that more influence the wider movement of the blood through the mind, therefore influence Tan Zhong. And then there are points such as 338. So if I say 3, that's using classical Leamington language, which is Chinese language bladder 43. The lateral bladder line point level with bladder 14, which is the shu of, what are we now going to call that? It's a pericardium that does not exist. Okay, which is the point that influences the blood of the body, the blood of the mind, and the blood of the spirit. But which is actually the shu of Gao Huang. all the shu points live on the inner bladder line. Shu, you can call it transporting point. I think that's a little bit too tangible. I call them transmission points. They're like radio, antennae that or cell phone towers that broadcast through the kingdom on a vibrational level. Gao, Huang, Gao, I think is best translated as rich taste. I'm not terribly fond of Giovanni's translation of it is fat. Huang fundamentally means vitality. It's the vitality which rises upwards to the area behind the heart, where essences transform into spirits, engendering the richness of the substance of you, put slightly esoterically. It's the place where incurable diseases rush to, and only the master practitioner can get them out, because they go hide behind the heart. And this is why all of the points that have Gao and or Huang in the name have a particular relationship to Sun Ximiao, who is the king of Chinese medicine in many ways, who lived in the 1st century AD and was through different miracles involving white tigers and blue-green dragons, was given the whole body of medicine, and was a master practitioner who still believed in magic inherent within Chinese medicine until after 500 AD. And he is the person most closely associated both with bladder 43 and with the shu of whatever we want to call the pericardium, which didn't actually exist as a point until Sun Ximiao, bladder 14. So, this is kind of the magic. Why is this magic? Because it's to do with the blood of the body, the blood of the mind, the blood of the spirit, circulating through the mind, which carries the spirits within, which then governs all, if you will allow it, all of the walking the walk and talking the talk. So this trinity of the heart, when we have the heart taking charge of the beings, because the 5 spirits don't appear as the 5 spirits. We have Shen, Hun, Po, the heavenly trinity, but then we must have the heart before we have the yin, the zhe, because the heart creates by applying itself, listening to the true sound. The heart creates the yi, purpose and intent, and the heart creates the zhe, will to life. So the trinity of the heavenly spirit, Shen, Hun, Po. Then we have a trinity of the heart with the 2 earthly spirits. And this is what is talked about as the central axis of life, that is the heart, the spleen, and the kidney. Talking the talk, walking the walk on behalf of the heart, allowing everything to be governed by the heart. But this is not just Shin. The heart is Shin, Shin, Balwo, and Tan, Zhong. So, these are all things I want you to think about, because if you are in whatever way is appropriate. As a five-element practitioner, we're going to treat pathophysiology in the context of the CF. That doesn't only mean treating the CF, but in the context of the person's CF. Other lineages are going to make your own diagnosis of the causes of pathophysiology. None of us want to chase symptoms. We want to address the cause and treat it appropriately. We need to be careful about which points and which channels. Because if you think heart pathophysiology just is treated through the heart channel, you'll be less than clinically effective at treating issues which are to do with Shin-Bao-Wo. And if you think that all pericardium issues, i.e. Shin-Bao-Wo and Tanzhong, is treated through the pericardium channel, you may also be less than clinically effective in terms of pathophysiology. And certainly in terms of treating a fire official, it may or may not work. So as I say, after the break, we're going to look at points and presentations and how to safely widen this out a little bit. Okay. So before then, I just want to include etiology. Because if you understand the etiology of the pathophysiology or body, mind, spirit difficulties experienced by a fire CF trying to manifest their authenticity and failing somewhat, then it can help you sort out which channels or which specific points or what combinations or what order could be helpful. So primary heart zang, i.e. all three, Shin-Bao-Wo, Tanzhong. So just get used to it. Whenever you think heart zang, think Shin-Bao-Wo, Tanzhong as the Trinity. We have the 7 emotions. Emotions, there is nothing wrong with emotions. But if they are accrued and cultivated or spread through your body, enduring for a long period of time, they then become the internal causes of disease. So emotional internal causes of disease are particularly injurious to the heart zone. Especially, so those of you that were with me yesterday, the 5 emotions of the 5 elements, really the better way of explaining that is the 5 wills, the 5 je, which are healthy manifestations. Just think about the seasons. The birthing, speed, surging, pushing of spring is called the violence proper to spring. You can call that anger, you can call that assertion, you can call that surging. That's the healthy movement of spring. It's the healthy movement of the word element, right? Ditto joy and elation for summer, etc. When we talk about the 7 emotions, let's just be clear, they're not the same as the 5 wills. Okay? So we have excitation, sadness, which is not the same thing as lack of joy when we're talking about aphasia. Anger, which is nothing necessarily to do with the proper movement of wood, fear, which again need not be involving the bladder and kidneys. It's not the emotion of water, the will of water. Fright is the classical way, which is also called shock in the modern world. Overthinking, which is also called worry, and oppression. These are the 7 emotions. So, of these emotions, all of these have particular affinities for certain officials. For example, anger, the most dangerous anger to you is the swelling anger of the kidneys. Second to that comes the bitter anger of the stomach and spleen. Way more present clinically than anger impacting the liver and gallbladder, which maintains over a long period of time. Okay. So, the 2 that mostly affect the heart zong are excitation and sadness. You do not diagnose this through trying to become an analyst, psychotherapist, psychiatrist, personality testing, any level of psychology. Yesterday I talked about the primary diagnostic tool. The practitioner who uses just observation is spirit. The listening gives you the sage quality as a practitioner. Okay. So, observation. All of the 7 emotions create a wrong movement in the movement of that official's qi and blood, or qi and fluids, depending on which officials we're talking about. Okay. So you see this wrong movement because basically zang qi is the regulatory movement of Tao. The opposite of zeng qi is xie qi, evil, perverse, pathogenic qi. Don't forget, there's no intrinsic good or evil in Taoism or in Chinese medicine. This just means it's not moving in the correct way, according to the regulation of Tao. All we do as practitioners is restore zeng qi. So when we talk about sadness, what happens to the qi is it disappears. This is not talking about lack of joy that we get with fire. The character for sadness is a scream, explosion, saying no over the heart. Basically, you resist the movement of life. So if a friend of yours dies, initially you say no, you don't want your friend to have died. You seriously miss your friend. This is fine. Not if it is a year later, or 2 years later, or 20 years later. Because then you're saying, no, I refuse to let my friend die. This is now nothing about your friend. It's about you. You are refusing the movement of life. So the qi disappears. There is no chest qi. If there's no chest qi moving, there's no blood moving. If there's no blood moving, there's no spirits moving. You now are not connected with the spirits. On the other hand, excitation, the qi is said to become loose. it rushes up and out and disappears. So you have no anchoring in the essences. You are progressively, because of the impact on the essences, exhausted. So you're just going down and down and down from this real yang chi upward excitation. It undermines jing shang, the relationship of essences and spirits. Depletes chi if you have no circulation of essences. It can't release chi, and you lose the connection with the spirits. These are why these two are the primary internal cause of disease that affect the heart. I'm not saying the others don't. Obviously, fright, shock can have a major impact on the heart. The other predominant causes of heart zang pathology affecting Shin Shin Bao Ten Zhong, we can say is pathogenic heat as one of the external causes of disease, or now we have fire, the funny external cause of disease that really is a secondary cause of disease, even though it doesn't appear in the two secondary causes of disease, because it's to do with an internal response to other things. You set up internal fire. This can adversely impact the heart. And then the other thing, which is why very often this affects the heart, is severe blood loss. Right. So, we've now, I just got a little flag. I think in 1 minute they're going to ring the bell and can this first session. After the break, as I say, we're going to look at how does this present in aphasia, how might you know it's not as clear cut, what do you do, should you still start on triple enters pericardium or rush off and start on heart's more interesting, what do you do if it doesn't work? Do you switch, or now do you start incorporating the two? And then what points on heart channel, on pericardium channel are useful for these different situations? So just until they ring the little bell, has anybody got a burning question, especially if you're not coming back after a break? No burning questions? Okay, so read Claude and Elizabeth. The ones you need to read. The Heart in Ling Shu, chapter 8. The Secret Treatise of the Spiritual Orchid. This is Su Wen, chapter 8. These are two books by Claude and Elizabeth. Rooted in Spirit, which talks about the heart taking charge of the beings and the creation of the yi and the zhe. And then we want to really get with the program of the healthy wills of life. So now look to the seasons and read The Way of Heaven. That will start you off being able to move forwards with this. Have fun.
Thank you.